You know what they say about when you assume you're in the Doom Room. I'm Alex, and I'm doomed.
That's a little too soon because I did that one a couple times ago.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, did
welcome
you?
to the
Yeah,
Doom
I was
like, you guys don't listen to each other in the beginning at all.
Nope, I'm just panicked right here at the beginning, wondering what I'm going to rhyme with Doom and Room, and I don't listen to anything.
Just another thread for the loom here in the Doom Room. I'm Justin, and I'm doomed. I just burned a bunch of them.
I'm the bride, you're the groom. Welcome to the Doom Room. Who's Pete? You're Pete. Hey, Pete.
Yep.
Who's Pete? You're Pete, and you're doomed because you're here with us.
And we're going to be talking about Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 13, Flex Patrol, where we finally get into Flex Mentallo, a character that has been teased for the past couple of episodes. Brief bit of recap here. Turns out he was prisoner 722 over at the ant farm.
Oh,
we find out
Alan
about
Moore.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, kind of the same thing. Alan Moore, also that jacked, absolutely.
100%.
And under that beard, I mean, you never see him with his shirt off, honestly, right?
I actually have a lot of pictures I'll send you, but that's cool.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. But we find out about his relationship with Larry Trainer back in the day when Larry also was first at the ant farm and being experimented on. And in the present, they try to figure out how to get Flex back to normal so they can find out information on the chief. Meanwhile, Cyborg is wrestling with the fact that he almost killed his dad. Turns out Silas is okay and reinstalls Grid at the end. And this all leads into seemingly teeing off the final battle with Mr. Nobody with a great bit of fourth wall breaking right at the end there.
Very funny.
That's a big difference between killing somebody and almost killing somebody. You know what I mean? Like, almost, hey, you're fine.
Wow.
Thank you, Dr. Pete.
What? Thank you, Judge. Thank you, constitutional lawyer. Be the page.
Yeah, I really hope that I never end up in a dire situation where I'm lying unconscious and you run out and you're like, this man is fine. This episode is great, though. I loved Flex Mentallo. I thought he was super fun. Just another weird character throwing him at the Doom Patrol. But the guy plays it perfectly, and you know what? It's nice to see when a muscle man is funny. I enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You're like a funny muscle man.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's my nerd prejudice, but I see a muscle man. I'm like, you got your thing going on, right? Your thing is your muscly. Okay?
Look at how quick you put that person in a little box.
I know,
and like,
get out of that box,
you can't
Alex.
talk. No, just you're a muscly person. Shut up.
Alex, you need to flex your sense of letting people be themselves as opposed to just putting muscle. Because I'll tell you what, funny muscle people is in fashion right now. You got the show Peacemaker, which on HBO a while back.
And Station 11, they're pretty jacked on that.
I think you maybe or maybe you're watching it through sort of flex color glasses. Muscle Vision. A weird setting on HBO Max. But also Thor. Funny muscle.
Mm-hmm. That guy in particular makes me very angry. I've talked to you guys about this before, but the thing that he improv the Mike Hat scene in the 2016 Ghostbusters makes me very mad. He's a very handsome man. Just be handsome. Do your handsome thing. Stop being funnier than everybody else in the movie, which is already stacked with very funny people. He's a jerk.
It was hysterical.
Greedy.
That whole bit with the glasses, like the finger through the glasses thing.
That's what I'm saying. Very annoying. I agree. Thanks, Pete.
He's greedy with talent, not like us who just stick to our little rivers and lakes that we're used to when it comes to being good at stuff.
Well, to get more to it, though, what did you guys think about Flex Mentallo since we are finally meeting him, his relationship with Dolores over the course of this, and, of course, everything else that was going on in the episode?
The best flex is his smile. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a very touching love story, and it was sad that Dolores sold him out. With the whole "look at my elbow" thing. That was heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, just to talk about the romance, we get this. Well, first off, Flex Mentallo's a weird character. He is jacked, obviously, and seems to be sort of super strong, but also he has telekinesis. Can read people's minds and conjure lunch. He can conjure lunch with a flex, which is it's got me back.
How
in
do
the
you
gym.
stay fit if you can conjure food when you flex? I mean, that's just impressive.
He's a man of muscle mystery, right? Like that's the phrase.
Right.
Yeah, the Man of Muscle Mystery. So really fun, unique character. My overall take on this episode and this show in general is it goes weird all the time, and it pays off every time. Like, this show is so good at just being like accept this reality. It's worth it. It's funny. And we get there at the end. Great action, great heart.
Don't trust cats.
Right. Which, Pete, you're the guy with the cats.
Oh, man.
Do you think that's going to happen to you, Pete? Do you think a cat is going to suck you into its mouth and then take you to a secret government facility where you'll be experimented on?
Well, if I've learned anything from movies and television show, then I guess, it's just a matter of time before my, Samuel L. Jackson lost an eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's tough.
In real life, too.
Yeah. Tragically. Yeah. Cats suck you into a pocket dimension in their mouths. But let me say real quick on that note, so we got Donkey that sucks you in.
Right.
Sort of run by Mr. Nobody, maybe. And then Bureau of Normalcy also has that. So is this all one big bag?
Well, it's not Donkey, it's a cat. So it's,
Yeah, I agree. That is
Are
a different animal.
Are you trying to... Hold on, Justin, are you suggesting that maybe the cat is Puss in Boots? Like you already have Donkey. The cat could be Puss in Boots. I haven't seen a gingerbread man yet, but maybe.
We got 2 episodes left. You've read my unified theory of Shrek, where the universe, everyone is a donkey or a Puss in Boots or another Shrek, and we're all looking for Shrek God in our own way.
We're all looking for our own Fiona.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh my God!
And if we string all this together, if you astute listeners, if we've been saying Shrek lines in the Shrek accent throughout all of this entire podcast, string them all together, and you'll have the entire movie voiced by us.
Wow.
Yeah, listen back to all the episodes, and it's pretty cool. It's a fun little Easter egg.
I farted in my soup!
Or
whatever.
I don't think that was Shrek, dude. Come on.
That movie's so bad. All right, let's get back and talk about something good, which is Flex Mentallo. So I love the scenes. I love his positivity throughout here, just his straightforwardness. Also love the stuff in the present. I thought pairing him with Cliff was such a smart, funny thing because we get some nice emotional moments here with Cliff and Jane throughout the episode, but ultimately it's mostly funny Cliff here, particularly tying in the soap opera thing I thought was hilarious and great, having Cliff do a absolutely terrible guest turn on there.
Oh my God.
Just fun.
Drilling down on, there was a lot of talk about me getting a daytime Emmy for that.
I love how many times he says that line. It's great. I do
then
think
just showing the scenes throughout the scene, like in him getting worse and worse, and like the whole he shoves that blanket on that kid so awkwardly, and then as a classically trained actor, it's so good it's bad, it's so bad it's good. I mean, where do you feel about this?
Acting badly is on purpose is hard, and Brendan Fraser does it really well. Great to see him in sort of a smaller role in this episode on camera anyway. And it's also very funny that the kid dies. Like not only is the acting bad in Secret Hearts, but the story's awful and stupid. So it's just really good across the board. The fact that Flex is addicted to it is great.
That's interesting because it starts off like he's watching the boob tube, as he calls it, to see Dolores, to see if she's still alive. But then it kind of, I guess, turns into a soap opera after years and years of torture or whatever.
And he's super dedicated to it. I think you could look deep into that and say that he's, trained or brainwashed with that TV because he's watching his wife, his love. And then he's given soap operas, which are sort of stories that are trying to remind us about love and death and all these things. And he's slowly weaned, so he gets the same addiction from the actual television he's watching with the soap opera on. So I thought that was cool, showing the damage that the Bureau of Normalcy has done to him.
And I'll also throw out there that Doom Patrol is probably one of the few TV shows that can get away with that level of meta commentary about what watching TV does to your brain. Because often when a show tries to do that, I'm like, You're on TV. I'm already watching TV. Calm down over there. But here, I think a lot of what they are doing is about this meta stuff. I mean, cut to the end of the episode when you have Mr. Nobody watching Doom Patrol.
Yeah,
so
with the swag.
They're able to...
all Doom Patrolled out.
Great. And they're able to get away with that level of commentary because they're smart about it, and they're challenging their audience to be smarter and think harder when they're watching these episodes. So ultimately, when you're watching Doom Patrol, I think you're more active than the regular TV show. So that's why it works, in my mind.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
I agree. And it works really well, and especially getting our emotions. Like, we get to see Dolores at the end reunited. They figure out through Larry's observations of the light being his observations of Flex back in the day, and communicating that to Larry that he has this wife out there. They reunite her. Great reunion scene. We see all the horrible things and damage that's done to Dolores. They're both coming out of it together, and then she evaporates.
Oh, yeah, because the timer goes off, and they're like, if you two are ever reunited. Oh, just absolutely heartbreaking.
I know. I can't believe Thanos is here and was just like
They just
snapped
snapped
out.
her
It's
out.
Wow, tying in the two universes like that was very cool, though.
risky. But I would like, more seriously, like, that moment was super upsetting and really cementing the Bureau of Normalcy as absolutely awful, huge villains in this show. You know, maybe worse than Mr. Nobody, or perhaps in partnership with Mr. Nobody.
Oh, interesting. But there's a couple of things I want to first talk on that you mentioned. The Cliff stuff, the way he was excited when they kind of, at the start of the episode, where he was just like, hey, we actually did something good. You know, we got Flex and we got Vic out, you know, and then, you know, of course, Rita was like, yeah, and he almost beat his dad to death. But I did love the excitement, the realization that, like, you know, hey, actually, guys, we're improving, we're doing well out here, was kind of a nice moment before kind of the madness began again. But
and real quick on that, I think Cliff wants to take the easy way out when it comes to sort of their missions and what they're doing here. He just came off this very difficult Jane going into the underground mission that was like muddy and sort of tragic, and they haven't dealt with. So he's like, Dick's like, he wants to take a victory lap at the top of the episode, and then he's very frustrated when it's not working out. So he keeps doing stuff. It's like, okay, punch the TV, got it. That didn't work out. Okay, I don't know what's happening. We'll do this other thing. I don't know. Like, wants small victories. I think that speaks to what he's going through as a character. The way he confronted his daughter and got very close to connecting with her, and then ended up not doing it at the end.
Well, and I think it's interesting you mentioned that, because he does actually have a small victory without forcing it in this episode, which he's really trying to connect with Jane throughout the episode.
Yeah, that was
she,
a huge
as usual,
victory.
Is pushing back against him and pushing back and pushing back. And then there's just that moment where he puts his hand on her shoulder without even thinking about it. And that's what gets through to her. That's what gets that connection there.
But
So,
he also makes a really good point. Like, hey, Jane, why are you so into torturing Flex? Like, you out of everybody should want to try to do something open and honest, and instead of like messing with this guy like you've been messed with so many times. And I think that kind of stops her in her kind of normal, like, get away from me, Cliff, I hate you kind of moment of like, oh, wait, he's right. He is trying to help me. And that kind of like pause it was really powerful and nice.
maybe there's something to be said, and not to take the Muscle Man conversation from earlier more seriously, but maybe there's something to be said for this episode about what we look at like externally versus what we are internally. And that's something that the show has played with a lot, but here, particularly what you're talking about with Cliff and Jane, that Cliff comes off as this big, brash robot man. That's who he is. He's a race car driver. But when he actually lets himself be who he is internally, which is just a nice guy who's trying to make people feel better, that's when it actually works. Or when Jane stops pushing on her different fractious personalities and just focuses on something, she's able to do the right thing. She's able to channel the right personality at the right time. In this case, particularly at the beginning of the episode with Flit, when she's doing the teleport-a-thon and sending everybody everywhere. It's a little manic, but it also gets people to the right places, the places they need to go.
And I think this shows that the team is sort of coming together at just the right time. end of the season when they're going to have to confront nobody in some regard in these next 2 episodes. Like Jane is able to use Flit. Rita is confronting her demons in this episode and sort of feels like she's stepping into a leadership role. Larry is owning up to his issues in this episode and sort of taking some power there. And Cliff is able to like not take the easy way and talk to Jane for real. Like they seem like they're ready for a fight.
Well, it's all like Rita is saying, it's like, the easy thing is to look the other way. The hard thing is to really grow and try to be better. And they're all kind of struggling with that in different ways. So it's nice to see some forward movement on these peoples, but it's also very felt when, Mr. Nobody's like, 13 meandering episodes and they're finally getting ready, it's really the kind of insaneness, but also some really moving and powerful moments. The show does so much.
Well, I did want to get back and talk about Larry in a second, but just while we're talking about the Mr. Nobody moment, again, what I think really works about the meta-ness there is he's joking about our expectations of the show, but now that we're 13-minute episodes in, that's not actually what we expect. And I don't think we really expected that from the first episode when he came in and said this isn't going to be your typical superhero story, that ultimately it is satisfying to see them say, we're a team and we're going to get together and we're going to finally fight back against Mr. Nobody just on a level of being superhero fans. But more, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I do think as viewers, we're more into seeing these characters grow and change as people than we are fight evil or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's what makes this show so unique from other shows. And I think it's funny that Mr. Nobody wants it to be more of a smash 'em up superhero show based on what he's saying. I also thought it was interesting the way he punches out Cyborg and just how important taking Cyborg off the board must be for him to try to beat the Doom Patrol, which makes me think that Cyborg's going to come back in a big way in these final 2 episodes.
Let's hope so.
Still want to talk about Larry, but let's talk about Cyborg just because we brought him up now. So over the course of this episode, he's dealing with what he did to his dad, and ultimately working with Rita, he makes the decision to reinstall Grid. That's certainly something I've been nervous about, and like I've talked about based on the comics, because Grid always goes haywire. Do you think this was a good decision on his part or a bad one to reinstall his operating system?
Well, it was what Mr. Nobody was pushing for, so it seems like it's a bad idea, but hopefully we'll get some good out of it. At the very least, he can probably get some more information about like what's going on with his father's health.
I think because he can like plug his dad into Cyborg.
He can because he gets WebMD on there.
Yeah.
And Yahoo Answers.
Multiple punches is what caused this. From my Cyborg hand.
Yeah. I just use the Dr. Pete app, which is real good. You press it, you log into it, and it says, congratulations, you logged in, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a new thing they came out with on Dr. P. It's just one of those Staples get it done buttons, but it just says you're fine. And every time I'm sick, I press it and it says you're fine.
You're fine.
You're fine.
Yeah. I don't know.
I actually got the, I don't know if you've gotten this yet, but I got the one that talks like Donkey from Shrek. It's an extra $1, but I really think it was worth it.
Worth it. It's worth $1 to get that donkey voice.
Yeah. It's weird that they did it in the Shrek voice, but it's
because Donkey is not Shrek.
Yeah.
It's one of the big lessons from the movie.
Yeah. You should check out, I have this great YouTube video. I know I'm patting myself on the back here. It's like 3 hours long, but it's this fan theory that Donkey is not Shrek. And it gets into all back to this episode. There's a lot of evidence there that Donkey is not Shrek in all 4 of the Shrek movies and Shrek 3D.
If you can stop Shrek flexing on us, we could maybe get back to this episode.
Shreksing. There it is. You're fine, donkey.
It was worth every penny of the $50 I paid for it.
Did you guys think it was weird that, like, after all these years, they've only used 2 cells, like 721 and 722, like there isn't any other? Yeah,
they use so many other cells.
Seemingly 720 other cells, at least.
Okay.
But let me talk about Cyborg real quick. I think Mr. Nobody told him to put the chip in as a reverse psychology move, thinking that he wouldn't if the bad guy told him to, and then he does because Rita tells him to. So I think that was actually maybe the right thing to do. Also, he had a gaping tear in his arm this whole time. That wound is huge and has been there for a while.
We kind of didn't talk about that, how he cut open his own arm and exposed his tendons or something like that.
To the bone.
Terrifying. How do you do that? And then just leave it open.
Well, when you're part machine, it's got to be easier. You know what I mean?
Well, but the whole thing is he doesn't repair because it's just the meat part.
Just the meat part.
And then we see it sew up once he puts grit in. I thought it was interesting that we don't hear him say where Beard Hunter is.
Beard Hunter, yeah.
Beard Hunter, because it happens off camera, and then Rita just shows up back at the mansion with the information. So I don't know. I think there's a little bit of mystery around Cyborg, I think. And he is definitely damaged by what he did to his dad, but I think he'll be back on the board.
Let's talk about Rita then, because some interesting stuff goes on with her here. We finally find out what that vision was a couple of episodes back. I think it was the Jane Patrol. No, it was the Doom Patrol episode.
Yeah,
where she saw a woman.
Patrol.
What? Doom Patrol. Where we saw a woman dying on the floor. We get the big reveal about that Rita essentially was this producer's pimp back in the day, providing him with women who would go on to great acting careers, but also he would sleep with them. And one woman gave birth to a baby and then killed herself because of everything that had got on. And Rita's held that.
Paid her off.
Yeah, and Rita paid her off. And ultimately, the interesting thing here is that she confesses it to Mr. Nobody, of all people. That's who the old man turns out to be.
Played by Ed Asner.
Ed Asner.
Very cool. Great guest star.
Great to see. Yeah. This whole run was great. What a great monologue and a great scene from Rita, the actress April Bowlby, I thought was just really great, really affecting. And that was a long monologue to have to deliver in the middle of a action-driven superhero show. And she does a great job of just telling the story, I thought.
I agree. She's one of the highlights for the show for me every episode. I like the fact that whatever Mr. Nobody is playing at, that she's really moving forward here as a hero. And like you said, maybe becoming the leader of the team, maybe becoming a linchpin of the team, whatever she's doing there. Ultimately, she's caring about people more. That's what she does for Cyborg here. That's what she's done for Larry in previous episodes and Cliff. So if anything, she's definitely the heart of the team is, I think, what she's becoming. And it's really lovely to see.
Well, if Mr. Nobody's plan was to distract her by having her walk around with Ed Asner, then I think her actually opening up to him must have been infuriating for him to have to listen to.
Yeah. And let's talk about Larry, because I think this is a really interesting thing that happened here in terms of him being separated from the negative spirit, that bringing all of his radiation sickness back. And he makes this decision, which seems like a selfless decision, to let the negative spirit go. Ultimately, the negative spirit does come back and heals him. But do you think there's also some bit of self-defeat going on there in terms of saying, no, let me die, just go free? Or do you think it was selfless, letting the negative spirit go free?
Yeah, I think he was trying to say, like, I've tortured you and kept you here long enough. Like, you should go, live your life. Don't worry about keeping me alive. And the light being, like, tries to do it, but realizes it can't. It's a very powerful, very cool moment.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree with that. I think Larry knew that he can't keep, based on the visions he saw about back when he was first put next to Flex in that that oddly same room.
Right.
A Cyborg.
I think there's only really 2 rooms in this whole thing. I think everything else.
What about the butts? What about the butts?
It's all made up. That can't be real.
The butts room. Their butts were in a room.
No, that's actually the only thing in the whole show that is real. The butts.
The butts.
Yeah. They're coming for
Hashtag butts are real. Fan theory, butts are real. Donkey isn't Shrek, butts are real.
I did really appreciate Flex calling the light being Sparky. I thought that was really fun.
Well, let me throw out another question to you, and maybe this is just my general confusion, but back in the day when Larry is being experimented on by the ant farm, they test how long the negative spirit could stay outside of Larry, and they say it's been a while, the energy has started to diffuse. is that my impression from watching that scene is the negative spirit is starting to lose energy being separated from Larry, as well as Larry losing the energy. So could the negative spirit have actually left him at all? Could it have gone back to where it came from? Or does it need Larry as much as Larry needs it?
I think they need each other.
Yeah, it seems like the light being would need to get back to a power source where it can exist, or a place where it can live. And like, because it's kind of tethered to Larry, it couldn't get, because it seemed like it was going to try to fly back home or someplace safe, and realized it couldn't make it, and that he needs Larry to be able to do that.
I mean, if the light being is, as is sort of alluded to in this episode,
If it is gender of the light being, I don't know what the gender of the light being is.
That's nice. They may be beyond genders, or their light being may have two genders, Donkey and Shrek, and we'll find out about that later. But let me
could
say,
be Puss in Boots. I mean, don't rule out
a third gender, Puss in Boots. Okay,
or it could be part gingerbread person. Yeah, I mean.
Hey, just finish writing your fan theory, and we'll get to it.
Okay,
but let me say,
listen, I'm sorry, guys. There are only two genders, Donkey and Shrek.
Don't push your kind of stuff on. We're not
You're
all
fine, says Dr. Zalman. If the light being is another being that did connect with Larry, then it doesn't know how to get back where it came from and is probably scared. So I think whether or not it physically or the energy dissipates needs Larry, I think just like Larry is scared to leave it behind. And I think what was so important about this episode was Larry, sort of old yellers the light being and says, go, get out of here. And the light being comes back on its own terms.
White-fanged him. He white-fanged him.
Yeah.
So get out of here.
We all have our dog movies.
Sure.
Will reference. We have ours, and Alex has Air Bud or whatever.
Yeah, Bolt.
Bolt. Wow. Didn't see that coming. What a young, fresh millennial you are.
Yeah. It's a good movie. Bolt's a good movie. Check it out.
All right, cool.
I haven't seen it. So I'm saying having light being come back on its own terms gives them both agency here, and they are actually working together and not trapping one another, as we saw both of them do in this episode.
Yeah. Pete, you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta talk about a huge reveal here, that when we talk about how crazy the show is, and also the soap opera thing is a nice little kind of warm up for the fact that the chief has a twin evil brother. Dum dum dum.
So he doesn't. That was a different chief. That was the chief of medicine or heart surgery or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
No,
that was where. Yeah.
He doesn't actually. They're supposed to think it for a second, but it's actually in the soap opera. That's the only thing going on. But we did find out another big piece of information about a key character in the universe, which is Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man, who got shot in the minerals, as it turns out. So he's going to be fine. So you don't have to worry about him too much. But,
got him right in the minerals.
Worth for
yeah, you
doing
guys
that?
ever been shot in the minerals?
Oh, yeah. Kicked right in the mineral. I got hit by a dodgeball right in the minerals.
I got
Really
kicked
took me
by
out
a
of the game.
donkey in the minerals.
Then I don't know how you could have kids after that.
It was after the kids.
Oh, smart.
Right after, right? After your second kid was born.
Yeah, I was like,
almost.
it's a boy. And then Donkey was like, yeehaw.
Well, sir, you could either have a vasectomy or I have this donkey here in my office if you'd like to have it kick you right in the minerals.
Sounds great, I said. But it
How
is
much
nice.
for the
I think it's
doggy?
very fun to have that runner going in the background just because it's a very funny, crazy character. And it continues to flesh out the world. Also,
But I also thought he was shot by a Von Fuchs fan. Von Fuchs is Uber, I think was the line. That sort of could have some plot stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's true. We have had Flex Mentallo in the background for the past couple of episodes and finally showing up here. So it's all part of the world, I guess.
I mean, the more I think about Flex, the more it makes me sad. I mean, because he basically sold out for a soap opera and then comfy slippers, and they were able to keep him in a room for a while.
He sold out to keep his wife safe. That's
Originally,
Which didn't
but then they kept him there for years later because of the slippers and the great TV programming.
And isn't that a metaphor for marriage, Pete?
What?
Oh,
You
interesting.
sell
Well,
out
Pete's
for
not married.
love, and then ultimately it ends up just sitting around watching TV and a bunch of comfy slippers.
Oh my
Oh,
God!
shit. Alex.
I'm worried about what you think marriage is. And
There's my life pre-donkey kick in the minerals and post-donkey kick in the minerals. And, You can figure out which part is which.
I hope after all of this that Rita and Cliff can open up an acting school because the talent is there.
Absolutely.
Ooh. And she can teach good acting and he can teach bad acting?
Yeah.
Another line that I really liked in the episode, there's another Mr. Nobody meta thing, but when he reveals himself, he says, looks like this episode was a cathartic journey for you, Rita. Looks like you're finally ready to, oh, God, there's more.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
very fun. That made me laugh out
So
loud.
funny.
And also Rita's...
Oh,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Rita's line after that where she comes in and sees the very gross bloody bandages that are over Larry and says, Larry, I adore you, but if you get blood on the carpet, I'll kill you. Very fun as well.
It was gross that he was coughing up blood. He's very close to death anytime the light being leaves him. Let me shout out the exchange where Cliff had the scrap sticker on his head. Tears off the S and it just says crap. Yeah. Well, it's fun stuff. Super
also,
fast, fun jokes.
The when he's cutting hair and he says, sorry, robot fingers, just hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you use that excuse a lot. Too.
I thought of you with Jane's shirt this episode. She was wearing a tacos are everything shirt. You like that?
Yes, I do. I thought it was a fantastic shirt.
Great. You usually call that out, so I was surprised you didn't mention that right.
I was going to, but I didn't.
Well, there you go. I did it for you, Dr. Pete. Who's the doctor now? That's how Dr.
You're fine.
You're a fine donkey.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, before we wrap up here, who was most doomed this episode? Pete, why don't you kick it off? Who was most doomed this episode?
Oh, man. Well, I feel like Flex is most doomed. You know, he's in a real tough spot. He, when his wife died, he kind of went Flex crazy and, everybody lost power in a very huge mile radius. So I'm a little worried about his mental stability.
His Mentallo. Pete, I think, if I remember correctly, you lost power on, do you think that was a Flex situation early in this podcast?
No, I didn't, but thank you.
Did you flex? Sorry, did you flex in that moment, and is that why the power went out?
I wish I had that kind of flexibility.
I get
Did you also know another fact while we're talking about flex? Flex is actually short for nut flex. Is his full name.
Justin,
Netflix
who was
Mentallo.
most doomed this episode?
Controversial answer. I think Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody is very confident at the end of this episode, and I think he's overplaying his hand, and he doesn't have this team locked down like he thinks he does. So I'm excited to watch him maybe not be ended, but be soundly defeated by the end of this.
Well, that's the thing. He is such a great part of the show. I don't want him to get defeated. Like, his voiceovers and stuff are just so enjoyable.
You can't beat the narrator.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I'll just mention casually out of nowhere, for Resident Alien Season 2, I actually attended a pizza making night with Alan Tiddick, who plays Mr. Nobody, and it was very delightful. We had a very nice time.
He's fun.
He seems like just a blast, yeah.
Good guy.
Let me ask you, Alex, in your day job, do you ever think it's getting a little, excessive? I mean, your pizza making, your Resident Alien pizza making night?
Whoa. I'm professionally making pizza as my job for a TV show that I ate.
Now,
I put up a tweet. I think I put in an appropriate amount of work there. Okay.
Wow.
Quid pro quo. Come to my pizza night and tweet one thing. That's why I don't understand how the formula works. I don't understand how the formula works.
Don't call yourself a professional pizza maker, man. There are real pizza makers out there who earn that title.
I don't think so.
Yeah, haven't you been to Pizza Hut? How dare you malign the pizza makers at Pizza Hut? By nut flexing on them with your pizza knife.
Do you know who I think is most doomed? Pete's most doomed for making fun of my pizza making abilities. No, I'm going to say Cyborg is most doomed this episode. He seems, as usual, and as for last episode, in a very bad place here. I'm still very worried about that grid thing and what that's going to do to him. I think you guys are probably right. That
you are stressed about grid.
I'm very stressed about grid, man.
Yeah, you read too many comics, dude.
All right, I'll stop.
Alex.
Thanks, Dr. Pete. Good recommendation. If you'd like to
You're
support this
fine.
podcast, you gotta fine. If you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast on YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Doom Patrol. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast, and many more. Now, before we go, a piece of advice from Dr. Pete.
Well, Justin started it by saying don't go chasing waterfalls, and don't fall for that lost old guy routine either.
What?
Don't help old people?
That's right.
Your
Classic
Don't fall for
TLC
it.
lyric. I loved when they said, don't go trusting old people.
Yeah,
Please stick to
advice.
the young people that you're used to.
that's right.
One of us is winning a daytime Emmy for this episode.